Hey, welcome back to another video here on Free Will Photos. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Luminar Neo's GenErase. I was on a phone call yesterday and got some pretty cool information as well as a beta copy of GenErase. So I wanted to kind of walk you through some demonstrations as well as give you some information. Now, I got to apologize. This is not going to be my highestly polished video. Don't know if highestly is a real word, but we're going to go with it. Anyway, I just want to get this content out to you guys, so please give me a little bit of grace in the video editing arena. Now, jumping into the computer, first off, I want to give you some of the information, and then we'll get into the actual demonstration. So here's what I think everyone needs to know about GenErase. I kind of broke it up into two columns: technical information as well as creative workflow information. So on the technical side, you have to be connected to the internet because this is only working in the cloud, which means you got to be able to send your image up to the cloud, or at least a segment of the image up to the cloud so it can work and then come back. It's not using your photo to train its AI model. They're using open source information to actually train the AI model. And what it's doing is looking at your image and grabbing pixels to make it make sense for your overall image, but it's not using or storing your image. So you don't have to worry about any work infringements or things like that, because no one's going to have access to your photos. That's, not something you have to be concerned with. It's purely just sending it up to the cloud to work on it and then sending it back to you. Nothing gets saved in the cloud. All right. It does not work on a credit-based system. Now, if you're familiar with Adobe, they're using these credits and, however that works, I'm not entirely sure. But the point is, you get as many updates as you want. Now, you get to generate as many erases as you want. Now, when we get to that segment of the video, I will kind of talk you through that because you don't get versions. And I'll explain that when we get there, but just know you can hit erase as many times as you want, and you're not going to be charged any credits, and it's not going to go any faster. It may go slower, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but that's just the way it is. All right. The next thing is it generates a 1536 by 1536 file or image space. The point here, and as it was demonstrated yesterday in the conference call, you want to work in small sections of the photo. We're going to push it to its limits because I'm going to show you in real time exactly how it goes. So I'm not entirely sure how long this video is going to be, but I will make sure to cut out unnecessary parts as best I can. Now, beware of going larger than 1536 by 1536. Again, we're going to test that out because I haven't actually tested that out either. This tool does take some time to process. You'll see that in real time, so I'm not going to go over it. The results save to your local drive, and this cannot be reconfigured. Now, this is no different than any of the other things like HDR merge and the panorama. All of that's being saved to your local drive. And then you'll have to move it from your local drive to an external hard drive after it's rendered. So just know that that is what's happening. And every time that you hit erase and you save that image, that's what's happening. So don't look for it in the catalog where you may have, in the folder where you may have the image, the original version of the image. It's actually going to be inside of this local drive folder. I'll show you that as well. I don't believe that's changing when this gets released. So just know that that is what's going to happen, and you just got to be ready for it. All right. This is not an extension. It's going to be released as an update to Luminar Neo. So similar to the Light, the Studio Light AI, this is how that will be released. So something along those lines. All right. Where it will live was a little foggy, I think. I heard that it will stay as a catalog level item, but I also heard that it'll be an edit level item. I don't really want to get too deep into where it's going to stay eventually, because when it's released, we'll know where it's going to be. And then that will impact the workflow. And I'll kind of talk you through that when we get to the workflow side. The next thing is unsure at this time if this tool can be used to produce commercial work. Now, that's extremely important for those of you who are looking to use this for real estate and stuff like that. Make sure that you check the legal terms when this comes out. If you can use any of the generated images for commercial work. All right. I'm not a lawyer, not a legal advisor. I'm just letting you know that question was asked and it wasn't answered definitively that we can or can't. As far as I'm understanding, it's just used for creative things and personal work. So for now, but that could all be changed, and Skyloom could put out a note that says otherwise at any moment. So I won't get too deep into that. Now, let's get over to the creative stuff, because that's all the technical stuff. You need to know that because it does matter, and I think it does impact the creative stuff. But the creative part is what I like to focus on. So let's jump into that real quick. This is destructive to your image. Now, I need to put that up front, because remember, this is creating a new file. So you may have the original file, you go and you modify it, especially right now because of where it is. You'll see that here in a second. It is going to be destructive to your image. However, it does not replace your original image. It generates a new image. So it's only destructive to the version that you are working on. More explanation and demonstration when you see that. You do not get versions to choose from. And if you're familiar with the way that the AI works in Photoshop, there's multiple versions that you get. So if you generate something, you'll get like 3 or 4 versions, and then you can kind of click through those to see which one looks the best. That's not what you get here. However, you can save and then go back into the original, paint your mask, and then hit erase again, and then save again. So now you're creating your own versions, but that could be time costly. All right. And you'll see that here in a second. It can be used a lot. It can be used on a lot of different subjects. All right. That's what's really cool about this. You can use this on a lot. I have a very narrow focus because I only have so much time to play with it, get this video edited and published. So more videos on GenErase will be coming here in the future, especially as I start working through my workflow of Photo Lab and On1, and then incorporating Luminar and all of these amazing tools. Like, we live in a great time for photo editing, and this is truly exciting because we as the users have at our disposal and available to us some tools that didn't exist many years ago for obvious reason. All right. The next one is focused on erasing and only adding information that would be appropriate to the photo that you selected. So this isn't like the Photoshop version where you can paint over someone's arm and say, make a chainsaw here, right? That's not what that does. This is purely you're painting over something and it erases, and it intelligently figures out what information should go back there. So that way you don't have like these weird gaps and pixels and stuff like that. All right. It is not particularly generating anything like what you can do with Photoshop. This is purely like erasing. So if you're familiar with the Photoshop version, if you lasso around an area and then you just click generate, that's essentially what this is doing without the versions for you to choose from. All right. The next thing, make raw adjustments to your image before using this tool, because it will render your photo as a JPEG or a TIFF. This, I have to kind of foot stomp. I probably should have put this higher. Look, if you want to modify your image, depending on where this lives after it is released, either as a catalog level effect or as a edit level effect. You definitely want to make sure you make your raw adjustments first and then use this tool, because if you don't, you're going to lose the ability to do the raw adjustments, and then you'll be a little frustrated. So you want to make sure that if you're working on a raw image, make your raw adjustments first. I'll kind of showcase that as well, so that way you can get a visual of what I'm talking about. And then the last thing on the notes here is what I've been saying. We don't know where it's going to live for the duration once it gets published. So I'm not going to go into that. Just know that. Now, if you want to pick up a version of Luminar Neo, then you can save 31% if you use the link in the description box below. It is an affiliate link, but you can use Neo31 off as a coupon code when you check out. I believe this is only good until the end of October, but if that's something that you are interested in, then you can go ahead and use that, save some money on purchasing Luminar Neo, especially for my audience who may be more geared towards On1. Luminar Neo is a fantastic application to combine with On1 edits. So let's go ahead and jump into Luminar Neo. All right, so here we are inside of Luminar Neo. I created a GenErase demo album just so that way I had the images available, ready to go, and I'll show you, kind of how all of this works. But if you look over here to the left, you can see I have a folder that says Generative Creations. This is what will be generated for you when you create your first GenErase photo. Now, the first demonstration is just going to be this photo of this guy right here. As I was taking a photo of the Eternal Light, I think that's what it's called. It's on the Gettysburg battlefield. This gentleman, he asked if he was good to walk in. I said, sure. But now, for the sake of erasing and getting a clean shot, let's say that this is just the reality you live in and you want to get a clean shot. Let's go ahead and use GenErase on this particular image. So I'm going to click on GenErase over in the right-hand side. I know I'm moving kind of quick, but this is at the catalog level. I did not click on edit. All right, so here we are in GenErase. I'm just going to jump into how this tool works. You have some items down at the bottom. Don't worry about the first two items. I would say the bar to the bottom right, where it says select and deselect, and then you have your slider, so that way you can resize. You can use the bracket keys on your keyboard to resize, and then you can reset the selection, and then there's the powerful erase button. So what I'm going to do is literally just paint over this guy and get him out of here. So I am leaving a little bit of wiggle room on the outside of him, so I don't have to paint perfectly, but I do want to paint over everything that I want missing. So I covered the subject completely, or the item, the person that I want to erase. Notice that I left some room around the edges of him. And then I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller because his shadow is kind of casting out to the right side of the image. So I'm just going to paint over that area. Again, fairly loosely. I think that that'll be good right there. You want to make sure if you're removing people and they're casting a shadow, that you get rid of the shadow. Otherwise, you're going to have the shadow in your image. And then once that's done, you just go ahead and hit erase. Now, I'm working with one segment. I'm not speeding this up. I am literally letting this run. What's happening is the image is going from my computer to the cloud. It's processing in the cloud, and then it's going to come down back to my computer. And this is taking as long as it's going to take. Now, I'm just filling this with audio so that way you get an idea, because I want you to see this in real time, and it doesn't make sense for me to sit here in silence. So there it is, it's done. And now it's going to render the actual photo. So once it comes back, it'll pause for a second, and then it'll render a photo now, or render the result. Now, what you can see is around the edges here, It did leave a little bit of color or discoloration, and that's something that we can fix in edit. I won't go into that today, or at least in this particular video, but I will show you in later videos that that's an easy thing to correct. So what you really want to look at is what artifacts did it actually leave compared to what was there. All right. Now, there's this weird thing that it decided to put in there. I don't think that that was in the original image, but it's not overly distracting. And if I need to clone snap that out later, then I can, because it's important that you realize you can still use all of the other tools that are available to you afterwards. Now, I'm going to click over this little area here with the blue tape around the white piece of paper. Now, I just did something that was kind of frowned upon in the example, but for the sake of me showing you why you want to do separate erases, what I should have done is clicked on reset selection, and then that would have removed this area over here. And then I could have clicked on that and did erase. But now when I hit erase, anything that's in red is going up to the cloud for the AI to figure out what makes sense. So let's see how this works and if that's going to regenerate this area a little bit better. And as well as get rid of the piece of paper that's over here on the left side of the thing. So we'll see how that works out. Again, I'm letting this run in real time. I know that this could be a fairly long video, and I do apologize for the length, but I think it's important that you see just how long it takes for things to run up to the cloud and come back. It's relatively quick. I like what it did here. So once it's done, I'm just going to come up to the upper right and hit save. And this is going to bring me back to the catalog. Now, there is a known issue with the Mac version of this particular tool, so to speak, is there's a little bit of a discoloration when it comes back. It's using I think it's a Melissa RGB color space. I have no idea what that is, but don't worry about it. I'm going to show you how you can fix that. So remember, once it generates, it's coming to this generative creations folder. And all you have to do to get it wherever you want is take the image, click and drag to the particular place that you want it to live in. So this is a Gettysburg image. I would probably just click and drag, drop it down into my Gettysburg folder. Now, for the sake of this particular tutorial, all I'm going to do is drop it into the GenErase album where I'm doing the demo. So that way I can show you side by side with these particular images. So I'm going to click that one and click this one, hit the space bar so I can compare the two. So this is the GenErase version that we just created. And then this is the original. I think it does a really, really good job. This is a fairly simple photo. The color is actually rendering quite well. You can see that when I switch between the two, it goes a little dull and then it reinvigorates itself. So there's that. But if I wanted to, I can easily just come into edit on this image, click on color, pull up on the vibrancy, and then you can also use your HSL and do all the color modifications. You can put as many of those. You already know how. If you're familiar with using Luminar Neo, you know you have the capability of doing whatever you need to bring the overall life to your image. Now, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully, you found some value in the GenErase demonstration that I just shared. I want to know your thoughts on GenErase and just AI in general. Like, I do think that we live in a really cool time where we have access to things to help us really manipulate our workflows and images in post-production. And I just love doing this type of stuff. So I want to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Are you excited for the AI revolution in photography? I get it. Some people are a little concerned that it's going to ruin photography. And I think that there's absolutely an opportunity for that to happen. However, I don't think that it's going to ruin it as fast as we think it is. And if we're being responsible with what it is that we're using it for as the creative individual, I don't think it's one of those things that we should be afraid of. We should embrace it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section. So until next time, I want you guys to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.